guys, my name is Hashim Muhammad and welcome to this hack project tutorial. In this video, we'll be building a file sharing or a content sharing platform for school students or university students and teachers. So what is the problem that we're trying to solve today in this video? Well, this came across when I was doing my bachelor's in engineering. So it goes something like this. So the teacher are from different departments and different domains, right? So one of them comes from the computer science domain, the other one comes from probably mathematical sciences, and yet they're different domains, right? And then each semester we have different teachers from different departments, and sometimes when a new teacher comes in, they barely know our names and barely know about our names, everything about us, right? And the second problem is that when they want to share a file or the lesson with us or the homework with us, what happens is there's one of typically three possibilities. If the university or your school has a proper system in place, if they want to share a file or something with you, typically what happens at schools in some cases is they share the file with one of the students in your class, and that student just bounces it or shares it with everybody else. Now that typically is a long process, right? And the second problem is that the second probability is that they have like in my bachelor's we had the problem of um, the way it worked is something like that. The whole class had a Google Drive account and or a Gmail account, and what happens if one person logs in, he has no problems. But since we're a class of like 30 people, Gmail would just ask like who are the remaining 29 people in the class. So it would just ask for verification, and that account was tied to one single phone number, and then we need the verification of that one person in order for the remaining 30 people to access that account. And what that means is typically one day before the exam, you end up with no notes, right? So that kind of situation might occur to a lot of situations, but this is one of the problems that really troubled me at least the most, and I wanted to do something about it. Actually, the solution is pretty simple. Um, but yeah, so I'm gonna create this from scratch using bubble.is again. For those guys out there who have no idea about what Bubble is, who have not worked with Bubble, I have actually created a basic beginner's course, and the link will be in the description from Skillshare. Go check that out. It's if you haven't tried Skillshare, it's free of cost. You can just go ahead and try it for the next 2 months. I guess it's 2 months free, and and you can take the course out and then learn for yourself. But then come back here because some things are going to be there's no coding knowledge required for this. However, I would highly recommend you guys have some basic knowledge of Bubble before you begin because I'm going to be moving a little fast in this video. Okay. The third thing is okay. Well, let's start off with this. First, go to bubble.is, create an account, log in, and I create a new app. I'm gonna call this school files. Okay, I'm just gonna call this randomly, but we can change this later. Just for the sake of this video, you can call this whatever. Something. Oh yeah. Thirdly, and the most important thing, I want to make this really clear before I begin. Now, this project that I'm making is only for one school or like one university or one institution. Okay. Now, if you're making this as a general purpose, you can also do that. However, there will be slight differences, but if you really focus on the workflows and if you kind of understand what how everything works, then you can actually build this up into so much more. Okay, I'm going to use probably TOTC Bootstrap, and I think the rest of the stuff I don't really need. Okay, um, let's begin with the boring stuff, which is the login and the sign up. And the reason I think login is pretty straightforward. I'm gonna like put both login and sign up in the same page. I'm not gonna make it responsive, unfortunately, because I really don't have a lot of time. So this is how it's gonna work. I'm gonna have a login. Um, This is a pretty simple, nothing really extraordinary in this. It's pretty simple and straightforward. We're gonna have one more, however, but let's do that later. First, let's go ahead and finish the login feature. So log in, and then I'm gonna plug in those fields, alright? So passwords, value. Okay, this is pretty normal. I also keep this, remember the email as yes, because typically what happens is after we do that, the web browser will prompt if they want to really save the thing or not, which they can then change. I'm going to duplicate this whole group, except there's going to be one, and the reason for me doing this, covering this part of the video is because there is one part that I really want to make, like, during the sign up we collect one information which is absolutely crucial to this project, and that is the class, and well, typically which class you belong to. That I think is a lot more effective way to like do this, as opposed to like you can do it in the other ways. Like for example, what you can do is you can create this as a generalized service and not for any particular school. You can probably create like a SaaS business out of it, but the problem with that is users will typically have to remember like a code or something. That's one approach. But however, if you have a better approach for that, I mean, by all means, let me know what you guys think about it. But typically, there's the other approach where you can. 1 second. So how much space do I have left here? Okay, so now we're gonna have probably a name because that's probably one thing. Let's finish this up here and then let's talk. Okay, probably have a drop down. Um, okay, I'm going to put this here, and this is one is going to be student. Your how do I say? What are you? I don't know. Maybe that's not probably the right way to do that. So either you are a teacher or you're a student. You should be either one of those. And there's going to be one more drop down, and it's going to be which class do you belong to? And this is going to be where you're gonna have classes. Okay, so I'm probably gonna write in a few classes here. Um, so this will be a bunch of classes. However, you can add as many as you want to. Uh, okay, I'm gonna stop with this. Okay, so these are the classes I have. You can keep the static or you can get it from the dynamic. Now the way I want to make my application is that the user will choose, this one is sign up by the way. So the way my application will work is that if it's a student, you'll belong to a class. Okay, this will not appear. Okay, let me make this really clear. When the drop downs, what our use value is teacher, then you don't want to display this. Element is visible is going to be unchecked. So if the value is that, it will be unchecked. Or you can do it the other way around. You can say is a teacher, or sorry, is a student. You want to make this visible, and you can make this invisible by default. That's a different way to do it. Okay, so this is not the login. This is a sign up button. So sign up, and I'm probably gonna put this over here. All right, so let me go ahead and align this a little bit on the top. Okay, yeah. So that's the other approach where instead of collecting the class names, you can have, if you want to keep it general, you can collect a room name, and then anybody who sends the files to our room, then he will be able to access that. But that's like a boring approach. Like typically, it becomes like a nerdy application. So I don't want to do that. I want to keep it really simple. Just invest some time in filling up this form, and afterwards you probably won't have any problem. Okay, it'll be really simple. Like when the teacher wants to send the file, it becomes really simple. Just select from a drop down and then click on send, and that gets sent. Right. So sign up. Let's go ahead and first, before we do that, let's go to the user user data type here and add the values that we added. That's going to be the full name. Again, by the way, username and password and the date of time of creation and everything is already done for us, so you don't really need to do that. So we're gonna have full name or display name, whatever fits your thing, and then field type is gonna be text. We're also gonna have probably occupation. The occupation refers to teacher or student. Um, that's also text typically. Um, we're also gonna have a field where they're gonna say class, so which class they belong to. If you wanna like create schools as well, like if you wanna do that, you can do that also. And the way you can do that is, for example, you have civil, mechanical, and CSE. These are my classes. So let's say, for example, you have a school field on the top. You would say if the drop down's value, which about you're gonna have another drop down that says which school do you belong to. So drop down which school do you belong to is, let's say, Orlando Metropolitan School, whatever. Then you want to display a different set of choices, right? So you can different display a different set of choices, and you can save the school as well, so that we can determine which and where he belongs to. So you can see the name, and if it's a teacher, you can probably like you can display a list of, for example, a different set of drop downs which define which position you belong, like associate professor or a what you call that, research professor, whatever it is. If you want, you can do that as well. So this video is brought to you by Zero Code. So if you're looking to build a dynamic website for your business or for yourself, you can hire these wonderful guys at Zero Code who have a lot of experience with developing applications using Bubble, or you can buy one of their premium quality templates, and which will take a lot of time to actually develop. So if you are interested, go check out the link in the description. It also helps this channel. So yeah, but yeah, let's go ahead and add another page. And you can add your logo on the top, by the way, just so people. Let's call this school, the most boring school ever. So I'm gonna put this simplify large. Here in this case, you can probably replace it with a logo, whatever. Okay. So let's go ahead and add another page, and I'm going to create the main app page. Now, this is how it's gonna work. Okay. Um, so let's go ahead and add the same background color, because let's keep it consistent. Let's go to the app page and add this background. Okay, so there's going to be two parts. One is the part where the user will be able to like send the files, and one part where he's going to be able to receive the files, right? So let's go ahead and like divide this page into two parts. Okay, and I'm going to put the first part is for as I said before, first part is going to be send files, and this one will be a header 2 probably. Looks better. And I'm going to be resizing this just to be looking like this. Okay, and then I'm going to put send files is going to have a send not send files, like send content probably, and you can put whatever thing you want to. In my use case, I only typically send files, so I would just probably have a note and a file, but you can add whatever you want, images or whatever you want to. You can add the whole thing there. Um, this probably we could extend this all the way there. It looks better, I guess. I'm going to put this something like this, and then I'm going to add a, let's be the horizontal. Okay, let's go ahead and enough of alignments. Let's go ahead and add an input here. This is going to add some notes for the students. Um, this is going to be the same for teacher as well as for students. Okay, so let's go ahead and add some notes. And probably I'm going to extend this page a little bit because it's way too I don't have a lot of space, so I'm gonna add, like make some space here, and I'm gonna add a drop down where I will display. I'm gonna make the same height. So, um, just which class? Which class do you want to send this to? Um, Now you can add a URL field. You can add a picture field. In my case, as I said before, I'm only gonna have files. There's You can just ask the user to like select only one file, but that won't actually solve my problem. So I'll search for a plugin called Multi-File Uploader. There is actually a plugin. It's called Multi-File Uploader Drop Zone. Select that and install it. So I'll just use that and I'll put it over here. It looks really way too simple. I can't really make out anything, so I'm gonna probably center align that, center vertically, and probably give it some clue that it is. Okay, so let's go ahead and put something. Get a background. Uh, this one. So I guess now it looks a little better. Let's add a dotted background there. Uh, like probably that's too much. Um, let's align this something like this, and then this looks a little bit better, right? At least a little bit better. Um, Check this out. So we have the place where the teacher or anybody could select which file they want, and then when they click on which class they want to send to, they can add some notes, and then when they click on send, the file gets sent to that person's thing. Simple, right? So let's go ahead and add another section where you see files received. And here we don't need any input fields here. We only need a repeating loop. So yeah, let's go ahead and add. Let's extend this place. So instead of saying files, let's say content received. Okay. You can add some filtering options like filter from the options. I mean, um, like I receive from any specific individual from only one department. I only want to display that. You can add that. You can also have a search option, but let's go focus on the most important thing, which is I'm gonna add a repeating loop, and then I'm going to like put this sort of something like this. Um, okay, and we're going to extend it downwards. And then I don't really need to have so much space because I'm gonna put this as an extended vertical scrolling. What this means is this will dynamically create space downwards, so I don't really need to define that. But anyways, um, I'm going to remove the separator, and then I'm going to. That's it pretty much. So let's go ahead and continue with this. The first thing is the name of the file or the content. If I have any notes, so I'll display the notes. Um, and I will, well, next thing I may want to do is I will add just like a caption. Oh, this is weird. Okay, I'm gonna add like probably in who sent this. One problem is I never added the profile picture thing, which I think will be a very useful when I'm displaying it over here. Like who sent this? My professor of this person sent me. So probably a profile picture would have been much more useful, but I didn't do that. But you guys can do that, and I actually did that on Skillshare, so check that out. Bonus tips. Yeah. So this one is going to be the center name, and let's make this guy's thing bold. Um, Probably I'm gonna make this like lead body. This just looks boring, so I'm gonna make this bold, and then I'm going to put this on the top and put the notes here. Okay, I'm gonna align this with the button on the top, so that looks slightly more aligned. What's happening to the notes? It didn't get added to the repeating group. Let me go send this backwards. Okay, I brought the notes here. So it wasn't properly aligned, so that was a problem. Let me put this like this and align this like this. You want to say if this makes sense to you, shrink the elements contents if the text gets shorter. So that's that. You want to recognize email and links if you want to. Um, you can do that. Like for example, if the user type, like a teacher types in like some link to a web page, they want to do that. That's also there. Actually, we forgot to do one thing. Well, we're gonna have two buttons. Okay, one is going to be for everybody, and one is going to be for the person who created this file. So let me see if you guys can guess which button it is. The one is, let's add an icon. Okay, two icons. Okay, the first one is going to be download. Okay, I don't know if I have the option. Yeah, download. Let's make this 32, like whatever size you guys want to keep that. For me, this size works. I guess 48 will work better. I don't know why is that weird cut out there. It's okay. So I'm gonna have another one just with the delete or trash. Um, so the delete option will only be visible if you are the creator of this file. So I'll add that condition over here. So oh, I can't add the condition because I don't have the data type here created yet. So let's put this on the top right here. You can add your search option if you want to. Okay, if you want, let's go ahead and add the search option here. So that's actually the search element, okay? But I don't recommend doing that. Instead, I would recommend putting an input box, okay? Because for one, that search is actually typically for things like Google Maps and location searches and searching elements from the database and stuff like that. It's not really searching elements from the repeating list and all that. So it's actually not the kind of search you can imagine. So the way it works is if this search, you can add a placeholder called search, and whatever it's gonna type in, if the text contains that value, then it's gonna search and return it. Okay, cool. So let's. I think that's the UI, and I hope this will be clear, and I hope this will get your job done, right? So okay, let's see if everything's cool. Okay, for me, now let's go. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the database and then read the dataset for content. So in my case, for the use case that I'm doing, my teachers typically only send files. But again, like I said, if you want to send pictures or whatever, you can add that also. Um, uh, okay, so content will have a list of files because multiple files, right? So it's going to be file, and I'm to say the field is a list in multiple. That is multiple entries. There can be multiple files. Yeah, and and the next thing I want to have is well the notes. That's text single value, and the creator. I don't really need that. Okay. There's one thing that we actually missed. That is, we actually need a repeating group inside of a repeating group. I don't know if you guys can say why. I'm gonna make this two because it doesn't really matter because anyways, the spacing is not limited to just four content. It's just to define how much of space or real estate do you want to allocate for this amount of space. So we're gonna have another repeating group because there can be multiple files. Now this will only download one file, which is not what we want. There can be multiple files, right? So we're gonna have a repeating group inside of this. So I'm gonna like resize this. Something to make sure when you scroll down, you can see down here if this element is inside the repeating group or not. If this is not faded and if it does not show up, then you're doing it wrong. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna put this download button over here. You can add the delete button. I mean, delete that as well if you want to. Um, I'm gonna add a the. It's gonna display the file name here. So file name. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin with plugging in the content. That's all I really want. Okay. So first thing is let's go do the send option. So this is pretty simple. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create a new content, which is, and then I want to define the files. Going to be files. Set list is going to be coming from the multi-file uploader value. So that's going to be those files. And then we're gonna have notes, which is gonna come from the add some notes. But let's see, we also forgot to have which class it should go to, right? So class, it should be text and create on the content. We forgot to do that. Let's go back to the index, the class, right? So we which class do you belong to? Let's copy these static values. In my case, it's static, but it can also come from a database if you want to. Um, so yeah, the drop down. Let's go ahead and add those values, and yeah, let's go back to send now. So the class is gonna be um, it's going to be coming from a drop down. So yeah, we're going to create those content, and once I do that, I can reset the relevant inputs, these values. So yeah, I guess that works now. And then now let's go ahead and do this. Down here on the repeating group, you're going to do type of the content is content, and do a search for content, and then you're going to say class is equal to the current user, which again refers to the person who's logged in, his class. Okay, so I will only display the files or content that has been shared for me. Okay, or when I create this content here, if that class, for example, if it's auto and sorry, if it's going to be CSE and I have registered myself as a CSE, I'll see that file. Okay, so that's that, and then let's go ahead and define what else do I need. I guess that's it. Okay. So there's one more thing before I do that. Let's go to the repeating loop inside of it, and the type of content should be file. I want to say current cells contents files as the type. Okay. Now let's go ahead and plug in the values because it says sender's name. That's just a static value. So let's go ahead and say insert dynamic content, current cells contents, creators, display name, and that'll display the name of the person, especially the teacher in this case, in this context. So for notes, we're gonna say current cells context notes. That's going to be these values, okay? And then we're also going to inside this, we're not gonna display the notes inside again. So we're gonna say current cells files file name, and this button here will lead us to well current cells. We're gonna add a workflow. We're gonna say navigation to an external website, and we're going to say current cells files URL. Okay. Um, Typically, this works. Actually, there are special plugins to make download options work. Like there are certain problems with this kind of approach. Like I recommend you guys go check out the alternative approaches. But yeah, if you want to delete this whole content, you can also delete it. However, well, this thing can you can add conditions and secure this. So delete the thing. So you want to say current cells content. Now you can secure this by saying only the person who created it cancels contents. Um, Content creator is not the current user. What this means is if the person who created this file is not the user, then we want to not display this. Actually, this is a wrong method because by default we are not displaying we're only viewing the content that wherein um, the class is my class. Like I don't know if I'm making sense, but for example, if I'm a teacher, if I send a file, I can't see that file myself. I've only just sent the file. So if you want to display all the files that I created, you can probably create another repeating group below this, the files I created, and then you can probably display the delete button. But I'm going to remove this condition for now, okay? Because it doesn't make any sense, all right? So let's go ahead and add logout button because last time I just ignored it, but I ended up having some problems. Um, Not really a big major problems, but yeah. So add this logout, then add a log out here. Something to remember in the index page, we defined the login and the sign up form. I don't know if we really did actually. Oh, we forgot it is a sign up, and that's what I was thinking is that I never did the sign up. So let's go ahead and add the input emails value and the passwords value. Now let's go ahead and add the remaining things from the database. Though we had to save class, display name, and then occupation. So class is gonna come from which class do you belong to if it contains the value. Otherwise, it's okay. In the case of a teacher, this value will be empty because teacher might not have a class. Like she might be going to, or he might be. Apologies. He might be going to different classes. So typically in university, a teacher might be responsible for different set of classes, right? So yeah, so display name. It's going to be the input name. Occupation is going to be what are you, which is teacher or student. Um, you can display a different set of options for teachers and students by doing something like this. If you want to display this creation content only for the teachers, you're going to say something like this. You can say collapse element when hidden, and you can animate this approach if you want to. If you want this option like sending files to be visible only for teachers, then you can do something like this. When the current user's occupation uh, is not teacher, then you can element this visible to be false. Like don't check this, okay? That will make this feature accessible only for the teachers. But I think in my case, it doesn't make any sense. So when the user logs out, we want to actually send him back to the index page. So I'll navigate him back to the index page. I want. Oh, oops. I want to go back to the index page here, and I want to like do one more thing. When the user logs in or signs up, actually, it's typically the sign up is also pretty much logs the user inside. So I'm gonna say when the user is successfully logged inside, once the method has been completed, we want to throw him to the app page. I think it makes sense. So yeah, let's go ahead and test this out. So for example, uh, let's go ahead and my name is Hasher at email.com, and then I'm gonna have my file with test 1 2 3. What am I? I'm going to be teacher in this case. So let's go create two accounts. First, let's be a teacher. Oh, okay. So this type is email. Let's go change this back here. As you probably noticed that when I say teacher, it's not gonna ask me which class I belong to. So yeah, just saying ash.email.com test 1 2 3, and then I'm going to be a teacher. Sign up. So let's go ahead and add some files here. Uh, so I just chose some random set of files. I'm gonna send these files to the CSE people. Like here are some files you might need. I'm gonna say send, and that files get sent there. So let's go ahead and register ourselves now as a CSE student. So I'm gonna say Brian at email.com. Again, same password, email 1 2 3, whatever you want. Student. I'm gonna belong to the CSE students. Now I'm a student. I'm registering myself, and then when I come in, I can see those files. I can download those files, and I can like if you want to make this, you want to check this and make this more presentable, you can go down here and say extend vertical scrolling. That way it looks better. Um, yeah. So check this out. So if I want to download this file, it would be simple as just like clicking on this and bam, there you go. So that's it. So this will, I think, if you want to have an approach where students can like if you want to make this a general purpose instead of making this for one specific school, there's two different approaches. One is you can augment this on top of school. So like classes will depend on the school. So if the school if the school first you want to display the schools, and then you want to display the classes that come on top of that school with conditions. Like if the school is this, then you want to display a different set of classes. And then if the two matches, then you want to send the files to that school, and to that you want to save which school it belongs to. Like in this case, we're saying we're only saving the class, But if you're going to make this as a general purpose application, then you want to also save the school. So that what happens is in the repeating list, you can say, oh, on the main repeating list, you can say search for content, classes this, and the school will be the current user school. So if you want to do that, you can do that as well. And if you want to make this as a general purpose stuff, but I think what ends up happening is because this one's like typically university students in the schools are they really want the custom branding for themselves and they really want a dedicated space for their school or for their space. So they're they typically don't want to use that kind of service where my files is going to be accessible by every other school or by every other people. I only want my school people to be able to access this. It typically happens like that. So if it's not a problem with you guys, then it's okay. Um, so as you can see, it says that extendable vertical scrolling cannot be nested. So I think we have to keep it like this. But it's okay. Whatever works. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much the application that IOV developed, and I think this will solve the problem. To me, I think it solves the problem. This if there's a problem for in your schools and universities, please be sure to like read this, share with your students. I mean, share with your people around you, and hopefully it solves the problem for you. If you had a different approach for this and probably a different use case, like probably if you're doing this for your for your company or whatever, let me know. Like probably other people can take inspiration from those. So, anyways, I created a project. Like this project has been shared on my website called creatorschool.com. You can share your ideas and your concepts, ideas like your also what you created with from this tutorial and what you learned from this, and what other ideas do you have? What do you think is possible from this video? Please be sure to share them there, and so that other people can take value from those. With that said, guys, thank you guys for watching. I should see you guys in another hack tutorial very soon.